This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Drink O'Clock Podcast, where interesting people from all walks of life sit down for a drink and a conversation. Each week, Drink O'Clock features a diverse range of guests who share their stories, expertise, and insights. Hosted by Rob Max AVV Valencias. This podcast is the perfect way to unwind and hear from some amazing people over a refreshing beverage. So, sit back, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the conversation on Drink O'Clock.
Gotta love technology, right? I feel like I always start these by saying, thankfully, we got it started, which is like, it's like that's the battle there is starting the podcast. But this is the Drink O'Clock Podcast. No idea what episode this is. I'm sure I'll see it when I edit the actual fucking podcast. And I'm your host, Rob Valencias, and I have now Ganesh. Your last name's great, but I want to make sure I say it correctly. Mm-hmm. Is it data or data?
Definitely not both. It's Datta.
Datta.
Yeah.
All right, I like it. And it kind of makes sense because obviously we're talking technology, and in my head I'm like data, right? And let's kind of intro you. So you're the face of Taru Vana.
Yes.
And that's a brand that's dedicated to empowering individuals to grow their own food and reconnect with the soil. So you're all about sustainable living, gardening, and fostering a deeper connection to nature. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
That's one hell of a intro, I should say. Yeah.
I got to kick you out there, man. You got a great story.
So yeah, I'm the face of Tarvana, as they say. So it's a homegrown brand that I'm trying to come up with because I have understood from paying very hefty price, right? That if you offer something for free, it's not going to work in today's world, right? Um, there is a jeweler in New York. He tried to give away gold for free, and people were like, "No, I don't want the gold." Could you imagine that? Could you imagine?
Today's day and age, man, it'd be crazy if you throw $1 out the window and someone's stopping to grab it.
And he was giving away ounces of gold, and people did not want to take it. And that comes back to my story where like if you offer something for free, people don't really care about it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? If you like capitalism so much, let's do it the capitalism way. The capitalist. Um, yeah, man. So, and I have been passionate for food. Uh, you know, you can probably guess it from my chubby cheeks, but I like food. Um,
I like food too, brother. No need there, believe me.
right.
The
So,
beard hides the double chin.
so yeah. So like I have always been passionate about food, but it was not until like in my early 20s. I'm still like 27. So in my 24, 25, I realized like, okay, food's not the same, right? Because that's the one complaint I saw around me. Like all of the older people were like, you know what? You don't eat the same food as we eat. And I was curious, right? I was like, why is it so? Let's find it out. Because if if community of people or a generation of people are complaining about it, something has to be wrong, right? Like if everything was hunky dory, like nobody would be talking about it. um, then I started to look into it, and then I stumbled upon the greatest invention of the human, that is to mess with nature when it's not necessary, right? It's in our DNA, right? To mess with nature and then complain about it.
It it really is. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. So I found lot of like BS, I would say, in farming and agriculture. Um, and I have always respected farmers because India is a country of farmers. If you know, right? Like 40% of our workforce is into agriculture. So, India is like one of the food baskets of the world. And I steadily saw that the harvest, even using chemicals, was declining, right? That in terms of output. And since very young, I am a very mathematical guy. Like even if you give me a relationship problem, I would try to solve with numbers, right? Because that's just who am I. Um, and I saw that, like despite more investment, that is more input, we are still getting lesser and lesser output. Like that should not be the case. Like I don't understand this, right? Um, yeah. Then I really delved, like went into the reality that is into farms, talk to farmers and everything. And then I figured out that it's not the farmer's fault, to be honest, you know, because we work with what we have, right? Like people come on podcast all the time using their webcams, right? People will always work with what they have because that's what we have been trained to do. So when you give
Yeah.
farmers, wrong tools, they have to work on it, right? They are going to make the best out of something. And this notion that people think that nothing is better, like trust me, nothing is very bad, right? And
Well, it's
then
wild, right? Because
yeah.
a lot of like what is transpiring today, and
Mhm.
what country are you out of?
I'm from India.
There you go. Okay. And you know, much like the United States,
Mhm.
right? We talk a lot about capitalism. It's
Yep.
it's along the same lines in India,
Hmm.
but I feel like the world
Hmm.
in like obviously everybody wants to talk about healthy living, right?
Yeah,
In the United States, it's always
talk
a big
is the
thing.
main
Yet,
point there.
yeah, yet we are the fattest country, or one of the fattest countries in the world,
Yeah.
because of capitalism, right?
Hmm.
I mean, because every industry has a greedy giant
Hmm.
that would rather throw in cheap chemicals than
Yep.
fucking just do it the right way. And
Hmm.
dude, it's wild. You'll see the pictures of people like in the 30s and 40s,
Hmm.
right? And probably not the 30s because you were talking. Here there was the Great Depression. A lot of people
Hmm.
died and were eating like rations, and
Yeah.
a lot of people were skinny then because there was no food. But
Hmm.
even in the 40s and 50s, right? We had the baby boomers and all the other crazy shit that started to happen. But everybody was skinny.
Hmm.
You had outliers, you had
Yeah.
fat people, but it was like you'd take pictures, everyone was skinny. Now it's the exact opposite. It's
Hmm.
right. It's the skinny people you barely see, and it's because we're eating things that we shouldn't, right? And
Yeah.
I'm a fat guy. I love fucking American cheese, which is just processed shit. I love
Hmm.
fucking cheese whiz, which is all processed. I mean, it's the furthest thing away from real cheese.
Hmm.
I love fried foods. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I enjoy
Hmm.
because it tastes great, but it is so fucking bad for you.
No, not
And
necessarily, right? Um, Not necessarily really. If you really look at it, see, the problem is we are consuming the wrong kind of food. I- Problem is not the recipe, like you said, fries, right? Like, okay, now let's talk about fries, right? Okay, now most of the McDonald's, like all these big franchisees, right? They have their own patented potatoes, right? Do you think they patented, the seed for nutrition? No, it was for looks, correct? It was for looks and
yeah,
texture. So it's all visual. You know, if you really look into it, it's just bullshit. Like nothing is under there. Sorry to say that, but nothing is under there, right? Like you don't find anything, you don't find anything substantial which is beneficial to health, right? Okay, then you look at oil and what oil are we using? Like vegetable oil. This, like I hate the term vegetable oil because people don't realize how like big is the species of vegetables, right? They're like, yeah, it's vegetable oil, like whatever, you know. So at the end of the day, like in dog language, right? Like dog trainers always talk about no smell, right? Taste, sorry, nose, ears, and then eyes, right? So all dogs, like
Yeah.
first sniff you, and then they understand you, and then only they judge you. But with humans, it because we feel so safe, it has become reverse, right? I want the most perfect tomatoes. I want the most perfect, I don't care, eggplant, right? Like
Yeah.
someone has to ask a question like, how the fuck is nature so perfect, right? Like the same nature is giving, like imperfect humans even in a perfect science, right? We are supposed to have, like mastered the process of giving birth, but still we are having mentally challenged people, right? Physically challenged people, you know, and still there is infant mortality. Why is it so, right? And if it is not perfect in the most like perfect species, right? Humans are the most perfect species. A lot of people like to brag on it. Then how do you think that all vegetables are uniform in size and color and shape? Just explain that, right?
And it's got to be engineering, right? I mean, it's
Um,
I've
yes,
talked about that on
exactly.
the show before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, kind of circling back to you talking about, us messing with nature. I mean, we're doing that with not just vegetables, man, right? It's
Hmm.
it's it's also like our DNA. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I was talking about this the other day. I think within the next 10 to 20 years, you'll be able to alter your eye color. So if you want to just change your eye
But it
color,
won't
you'll be
matter,
able to
Rob.
change your eye color.
Yeah, it won't matter though, because I always see all the intelligent people talk about cyborgs and AIs and stuff. It's just stuff, you know. But I also always see, one of the biggest counters that I receive when I talk about food is, I take supplements, right? I'm like, okay, so do you know science? Like, do you understand biology? Do you understand there is something called as bioabsorbability? Just look it up, right? And look at the synthetic supplement bioabsorbability compared to a natural source of nutrition, right? Then we will see who is the more evolved one, right? And I always see people talk about technology and, how science is going to change everything. Yeah, but at the end of the day, mathematics is mathematics, right? Like 2 plus 2 equals 4, no matter what you do. And no matter how many woke people say math is racist, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And it probably doesn't give a fuck about what you think, right? It's so same to, nature. I trust and I believe that in like probably next 30 years, right? You will see more dependence on synthetic like food, right? Than natural food. It's not because people like it, it's because people will not have any other options.
Well, that and cost, right? I mean, they're making it so that the bad food and the synthetic food and the
Mm,
food that's really not natural
mhm.
is the cheapest options, and the healthy food,
Yeah.
the food you should be eating,
Mhm.
is the most expensive, right? And
Yeah.
then they're even putting a premium on that because they throw that
Yes.
organic label on it,
Mhm.
which is bullshit, right? And to a certain degree,
No, it's
and
not bullshit, but
that
the pricing that organic demands is bullshit, definitely.
yeah. Well, here's so maybe you could tell me differently because
Yeah.
I've done some research on the organic thing,
Mhm.
and I've seen some different documentaries that say, what like the whole organic label
Mhm.
is to a certain degree bullshit
Mhm.
because a lot of it they don't really do that much different to
Mhm.
garner the increase in price,
Yes.
and it's not like it's just not different. But
Mhm.
there is certain things that I saw. Uh, and, yeah, you know what? That'll be my next point. But
Yeah.
Maybe you can like, do
Mhm.
you agree at all on that, or like, what's that process look
Yeah.
like?
So see, the only
Is
and
it
the
different from India than the
Mhm.
United States? Because
Nope,
I don't know that either.
nope. I mean, in some ways, Indian organic vegetables or fruits are better than American fruits and vegetables. I know bald eagle people are going to come after me for saying that, but yeah, see, the main and the only difference between, let's say, your organic and your chemically produced food, right, is balance of nutrition. And now people will come after me to say there are GMO seeds to balance nutrition, and that's bullshit, right? I don't want to go into that because I will magically disappear if I talk about that. So yeah, so the biggest difference is, you see, soil, right? Soil is dead. you know the way people talk about soil like soil is alive. No, soil is a dead thing. It's an object, right, where billions and billions of living organisms survive and thrive, right? So they create an ecosystem. Now, the NPKs, the DAPs, the DPKs, whatever that you put into your soil, right, soil does not consume it. And people have this notion that they think plants consume it, right? And that's not a true statement, because plants do not have a capability, right, to suck nitrogen out of air, right? So they need bacteria like rhizobium. So rhizobium is a aerobic bacteria, right, which converts the gaseous nitrogen and delivers it to the plant for the nitrogen source, right? So that means plant itself is a disabled like organism, right? It cannot function on its own. It needs a perfect ecosystem for it to work. Now, the problem with chemical farming is we use a lot of synthetic chemicals, right? But the problem with synthetic chemicals is the 100% of synthetic chemicals won't get utilized. So, for example, if you are a farmer, even in India, right, you are a chemical farmer, right? Let's say, like, you have been using chemicals, right? And if you want to turn into an organic farmer, and if you really look at it, it takes 3 harvests for you to be chemical free. So, let's say in year 2024, right, you put up chemicals, then in 5, 6, 7, in 3 years, even if you don't use chemicals, right, lot of chemical residue will still show up on your fruits and vegetables. And by the fourth year, that is 28, your fruits or vegetables will be chemical residue free. So this notion of like chemical and organic is same, it's not, it's different. But to be honest, the input cost of organic farming is very cheap. Like it's very less compared to chemical farming, because I have seen people losing their lands, you know paying chemical companies. um
Wow.
yeah, and I
And just to be
truly
clear, we're
believe.
talking like
Yeah.
when you talk chemicals,
Mhm.
you're talking about like pesticides and all that stuff,
Yes,
right?
pesticides, fertilizers, herbicides, um yeah, and preservatives, these things
Okay.
that farmers are forced to use, because even in India, right, like government will give you subsidy if you use chemical, like urea. Urea is a chemical, and lot of farmers, and it urea is a very dangerous thing if you really look into it, right? The sales representative who is selling that chemical would not use it bare hands. Yet farmers are out there, right, spreading it across the field bare hands, because they're not educated that this is dangerous, and it leads to a lot of issues even with farmers. But the core issue is what they're growing is not sufficient for humans. Not sufficient meaning, I'm not talking about food, I'm talking about nutrition. You see, you could eat like all you want but still not get enough nutrition, and that's the biggest problem in today's world, that multivitamins and supplement companies are taking advantage of, right? Rob, let me give you one small, like, example, right? So in India,
Love it.
every district, right? Every district award gives an award for the best farmer. There is an award called as best farmer to, of course, financially help farmers, right? So they look at how much did you grow in a certain area? Was the output very good, right? Was the quality? What was the look, shape, like everything? So, and they collect the data and, they keep it in registries, right? Like, archives. And I had to do some digging, but spinach, right? Spinach is very famous for iron. Like people say,
Yeah.
I don't know in United States, but over here in India, even doctors, if you have less hemoglobin, they will say start eating spinach and kale and other leafy vegetables, right? Because it has higher iron. Now, the part of the reason that people are eating too much, right? It's a very simple reason. Your body is able to calculate how much nutrition you're taking in, right? And it will make you overeat if you are not meeting its required quota of nutrition. And that's a simple truth. And if a doctor says that's not the truth, then I don't know how biology works, maybe, right? So now coming to spinach, right? In 1948, right? By the way, that's around the time India got independent, right? So still chemicals were not prevalent as much. So in 1948, if you ate like 100 grams of spinach, right, you got around 158 mg of iron. Okay, so
Okay.
100 grams. Let me convert it to your language, right? That is ounces, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
if I said okay 100 grams, it is 3.5 ounces. So
Okay.
if you ate 3.5 ounces of spinach, right, you would get 158.4 iron, mg of iron, right? So now in
And NG's
1990,
nanograms, right?
mgs, micrograms, mgs,
Oh, okay. Micrograms. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So they're called as micrograms. That is, in smaller, what can we say, like measurements.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you would get 158 mg of iron, right? Now just forward like what 50 years, maybe like in 1992, I was not even born by that time. The same your 3.5 ounces of spinach would contain like 2.71 mg of iron.
Wow.
That's not a
That's
decrease.
wild.
Yes. So it's almost like the core nutrition is getting disappeared, right? Now orange is my favorite thing, right? Like people always say eat oranges. I see everybody eating orange, right? Now in orange the content of sugar has increased, right? And what is orange down for? Vitamin C, right? Vitamin C is almost non-existent in many types of oranges. Now why did that happen, right? Because we strived for looks and taste and we forgot that we need nutrition.
Yeah, isn't it like they were showing? I feel like I saw something. It was like this is what an orange looks like now. This is what
Yes.
it looked like 100 years ago,
Yes,
and it's
definitely.
like it looks like a tangerine or it looks like a little tiny thing, and then
Yeah.
now it's just this big beefy fucking orange. But that's wild, dude. I didn't really
Yeah.
look, and I'm gonna be honest. I had you on here because
Hmm.
I'm a fat guy and I don't like greens, man. I
Hmm.
don't,
You don't
and
have to.
it's been it's been a struggle
Yeah.
my whole life,
Hmm.
and it's still a struggle, and I
Hmm.
still really don't eat them, and
Hmm.
I supplement with pills that I
Hmm.
probably don't need,
Yeah.
and I'll be the first person to say I know that that's not healthy. I'm not
Yes,
like one of those
definitely.
people that's gonna lie to myself, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, it's fine. I'll just take some some
Supplements.
supplements.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine. And I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
trust any of that shit I fucking put in my mouth, dude.
Hmm.
Doctor approved or not, it's probably all
Yeah.
fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like um but there's too many. There's too much of that. I think, especially in the United States, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with India enough to be able to kind of say, yeah, this is how it is here compared to India. But
Yeah.
I will tell you here, we're so fucking unhealthy,
Yes.
and because of the way the companies work, it's like, oh, you don't need vegetables, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you could take this, these 3 different pills, and doctors
Yeah.
are the same way. And I had it on here that I do want to talk to you about this, at some point. But let's talk a little bit about what got you into the healthy living lifestyle, and how early did you adopt it?
Mhm. Yeah. So, you know, um, it will be controversial what I'm going to say, but I studied in a place called as Gurukula. Gurukulam is like, like you go into a forest, it's a campus surrounded by forest, let's say. So I grew up in an area like that, and in India, it's not very hard to find a farmer, right? Probably, yeah. Even in metropolitan cities, right? If you talk to majority of people, their parents or their siblings are still doing farming. So it's like if you throw a stone, you probably hit a farmer. So
Well, India
you're
is a big ass country too, dude. India's not. It's not like, even Canada is big, but India is ginormous. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, and we're also stepping towards 1.5 billion people now. So
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of fucking people, man.
yeah. So what happened is, like I was interested in a lot of things, but I've always liked animals. I don't know why. And I saw that many even domesticated breeds of cows and sheep and goats were getting extinct, and I'm like, how the fuck is this happening? Right? It's not supposed to. Um,
Yeah.
but it's happening. That's the truth. India had over 84 cow breeds. Today, probably like 30 exist. And it's the same story with goats, sheep, chicken, whatever you want to say. And everything is right now, it's like, a boiler chicken. Like, what the fuck is a boiler chicken, right? Nobody asks that question, and I am
Yeah.
surprised when I talk to people. I don't know in United States, but in India, there is something called as chicken 65, right? It's a dish,
Okay.
that's sold, and people eat it very happily, and they think like 65 is a masala or something. I don't know why they think that. But when I say like 65 is the days that the animal has been alive, right? It is cut on the 65th day, therefore it's like 65,
Wow.
95. And people are like, oh damn, I did not know that. I'm like, yeah, and you are educated like in what terms, right?
Why do you think it's the 65th day? I don't. Is there a specific reasoning behind that?
The reasoning maybe is, like these broiler chickens, right? They are not supposed to have a very long lifespan. They die off rather quickly. You know that, right? Like these broiler chickens have been bred to make sure that there is less and less bones and more meat. So of course, oh, there will be a point where they will have broken legs and etc. Right? Their spine itself probably can't support the weight that they are. So yeah, I
Chickens are
don't know.
fucking diesel, dude. Some of the dude, I'll tell you this. I went to a butcher. I don't normally go to butchers. Normally I just go to our local grocery store here. But people kept telling me, dude, just go to a butcher, right?
Yep.
And I went to a butcher to get meat, but I also asked about chicken breast, And he's like, yeah, I got some chicken breast for you. And it was a Hispanic butcher, and dude, the chicken breast this guy gave me, it was the biggest there's no way it came from one chicken. Like it freaked me literally, dude. It was this fucking big. Like if you're listening to this, it is like the size of a small kid's thigh, and it was frozen because he had, I guess it wasn't out. He's like, I got fresh ones in. They're they're in the back, and he brought it out. It took 2 days to dethaw. I had it in my fridge for 2 fucking days. And like I cooked it, and I had to cook it for like an hour. And I said to my fiance, I'm like, look, I don't think these are gonna be good because I had to cook it so long because I was so worried that the center was still gonna be pink. And I'll be honest with you, it was still to a certain degree pink. And I'm like, it tastes okay, but you had to cook it so long that it had no juice to it. And I'm like, I love chicken. I could eat probably like broiled chicken, baked chicken all day, every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't. I ate 10%, 15% of it, and I threw the rest away. And I seasoned it. I did everything I could to like salvage it.
Yeah.
But it just was not good because of how big it was. I'm like, dude, I just want a small, normal sized chicken piece. I don't need these like bioengineered RoboCop fucking chickens. You know, like it was absurd.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the hormones these motherfuckers are getting is insane to make them that big. Like I would have loved to see this fucking dinosaur chicken that he pulled these chicken breasts from. It was absurd.
Join hosts Dave Houghton and Sarah Ray Talley as they examine the less glamorous side of sports with their podcast, In a Pickle. Follow IAP Radio on social media by going to IAPradio.com. In a Pickle is now part of the Den Network. For more information, go to IAPradio.com.
Yeah. Do you know the comedian Trevor Noah?
Mm-hmm.
He said something similar, right? Like when he came to United States for the first time, and he saw the menu, right? He saw something called as buffalo wings, and he was very intrigued. He was like, okay, let me try what is this, and he ordered it. And when it came, in a plate, he really thought it was buffalo wings. And when like when the server or a waiter person said, this is not buffalo, it's actually chickens, he was like, damn, these are some big, bulky chickens, right? That he did not find over anywhere in the world, because he had lived in London and other parts of the world. But yeah, it is something that's very unique to United States. I think big things, Americans like big things, like cars, big cars, like, yeah. But I feel like, like, to be honest, like, even if you look at the history, we are not the first civilization to master food, and we probably are not the last, right? But the
Yeah.
truth is, we are damaging soil, we are killing soil, by just getting rid of bioorganisms that we feel we don't need it, right? So, Rob, I'll tell you one small thing. Like, even if people say inorganic is bullshit or whatever, right? Um, you know, the only way, like, okay, now I see that you drink alcohol, right? Now, let's say after, like, let's say
I
five
do.
to six, let's say after 5 to 6 rounds, right? When you ask alcohol, right? One more round. Majority of bartenders will say no, but they will start to dilute the alcohol, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only way to keep you, around. Meaning,
Keep you
keep
standing.
ordering. Yes, exactly. Exactly my point. So to keep you ordering, they keep diluting. So, but you're still hooked on the alcohol, aspect of it, right? And this, it's the same with all drugs, right? Any drug comes into market, you know, people, explode even by taking a very small amount of the said drug, right? But over the period,
Yeah.
the quality comes down, and this is what people think, like the quality has gone down. No, because the person who is the supplier is not an idiot, right? He knows the only way to make money is to sell more. Okay.
True.
Now, that's the same with chemical fertilizers. Okay. If this year you put, let's say, 1.5 ton of chemical fertilizers, next year you'd have to put 1.8 to 1.9. So your dependency on chemical fertilizers increases every year. Okay. You talk to 100 farmers, even in the United States, nobody will say, you know what, my chemical bill has been the same even like for 2 years. Every year it keeps changing, it keeps increasing, and the dosage increases, the cost increases. So there is going to be a tipping point, I feel like, where the cost of input is going to be far more than cost of output. And
That's
ironically, right?
wild, man.
Yeah, ironically, the person who is supposed to be the richest, that's the farmer, right? Because Rob, I don't care what fancy shit technology people use. The day farmer says "fuck you," I am not producing anything. That's it, right?
It's
That's
true,
it.
man. Actually, did you see the story? Like, all right, so do you guys have sriracha in India?
Mm, nope. I don't know.
No.
Can you
So
spell it out?
sriracha is it's SRIRRAHA, I believe.
Okay.
So it's a pepper based. It's just made of red
Hmm.
peppers. It's a
Yeah.
spice. It's great.
Hmm.
It's fucking fantastic. Um, it's wild because in the States here, it got crazy popularity. And
Hmm.
I was looking into it because it's one of my favorite things to put on food. I love it. I love the spice.
Hmm.
And the is it Hung Fui? Hung Fui? Hold on, let me look at sriracha. I think it's
Yeah, it's Hoi Fong, right?
yeah,
Hoi
Hoi
Fong.
Fung, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah,
Yep.
Hai Fong. Yeah.
So it's wild. They have a corporation here,
Hmm.
and they had a deal with a farmer, right?
Hmm.
And that I guess it got super popular here, right?
Hmm.
And they were the main company that did it. So they kept upping their orders, upping their orders. So
Yeah.
this guy had to continually grow his land, right, to
Hmm.
plant these peppers, and it takes a long time.
Yep.
And some crazy shit happened obviously with the pandemic. Then there was a drought, and it like
Hmm.
fucked up the crops, and there was some
Yep.
crazy shit that happened.
Hmm.
But then they had this tentative deal,
Hmm.
and that company basically said, you know what, man, this is what we're gonna pay you. And they tried to fuck the farmer,
Yep.
and
Yep.
the farmer was like, no, you know what, I'm gonna countersue you. And what ended up happening was is he won. He won the countersuit
Hmm.
because these people agreed to the guy that owned the company agreed to a certain deal,
Hmm.
and he nagged on the whole negotiation.
Yeah.
And so that then because the guy lost millions. I think he
Hmm.
lost like 9 million, and then like 7 million the next year.
Hmm.
So he countersued, he won,
Hmm.
and people are complaining now because the company still has their sriracha sauce, which is super popular, but
Hmm.
everyone's saying it tastes different, and it's because
Definitely.
they're using different farmers. They're not just using
Yep.
this one guy.
Yep.
They're using like many people because
Yeah.
they don't use this guy anymore, and he was
Yeah.
growing all of their peppers, and it's
Hmm.
wild to think that just one small difference, and you could tell,
Hmm.
like you could really tell the difference because I
Yeah.
put on all my food. I love it.
Hmm.
But I'd
Yeah.
imagine there's got to be
But
like
it's a
other
very rare
instances
case.
of that.
No, no, actually, to be honest, it's a very rare case that a farmer goes against a corporation and wins. Because usually farmers do not have the resources to fight a big corporation, right?
Yeah, I
So
guess that makes sense.
they get screwed over and over again every year, but they can't do much.
That sucks, dude. I mean, they produce
Yeah.
so much shit
That's
that
what I was
goes
getting
into
at,
our
right?
whole ecosystem.
Exactly. I'm like, dude, the person who should be the richest is the person who's growing food. Like, period. I don't care you are a freaking nuclear whatever engineer, right? Like, you gotta eat, dude. Like people feel like electricity is our backbone. I have seen a lot of people talk about it, right? Like, if without electricity, we would be chimps and apes. No, without food, we would be nothing,
Yeah, wait till
right?
there's a fucking solar flare that knocks out all of our electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Yeah,
luck eating.
exactly. Day before yesterday, I think Meta was down for like what 3 4 hours, right? Nobody could log in.
Yeah.
Nobody, people did not die, dude. People don't understand, when this progressive thought, that of victimhood. I really hate that word. Like victimhood,
Yeah.
people, talk about, oh my God, online bullying. Yeah, just log out. Who cares? You know, like it's really that simple, because people have become too comfortable living a fake life. And this concrete jungle life is a really fake life, is what I feel like, because everything is
Oh,
provided to
big
you,
time.
but you have no fucking idea how did it reach my table. Nobody cares, right? I challenge most of Americans I talk to, go to your nearest vegetable, like super chain, right? Find me one bad vegetable. I'll wait here like for 6 months. you know in
It's
United
true,
States,
man.
we you
It's
know
true.
yeah, in United States, we waste around, I think, 63% of the grown vegetables and fruits. 63 fucking percent, man. Could you imagine? And then they talk about Africa. Like Africans are hungry. No, they're not. You know why? Because they're self-capable. They can grow anything from nothing. And now coming to the Uncle Sams, right? Who think like, we are the most powerful country in the world. Okay, so what? Right? Even in the worst of, you know, droughts, right? Open trade kept America alive in terms of food. And I don't want to hear people saying, you know what, we are self-sufficient. No, you're not. Look at your
Oh
import and
no,
exports, right? Mm.
no.
Yeah.
You know what, man? We were the most powerful country in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It's
Rob, but my
I
question is,
don't
in
believe that
what?
anymore.
No, in what, right? In destroying others, right?
In probably military. It's like,
Exactly.
but it's not the same anymore, man. And I mean, the
Yeah.
dollar has declined
hmm
excrementally
Yeah,
because
because,
of all the
Rob,
fucking
I
dumb
think,
shit.
yeah, because we're looking at it as a society in a very wrong perspective, right? People talk about homelessness, right? I hear a lot, like, I think somebody, one of my friends, from United States said that, when he went to California and he saw, especially in LA, the amount of homeless people, it was more
Yeah,
than
it's
a
bad there,
million.
man.
And I'm like, damn, dude, like, even poor countries don't have so many homeless, you know. But yeah, coming back to the point, right? We are looking at it from a very wrong perspective, I feel like. Of course, nuclear bombs are necessary so that, I don't disappear by mistake. I have to give this statement like, of course, nuclear bombs and, like tanks that run on diesel is very necessary. Um, but so is food, right? And so is just basic standard of living. And I feel like, in cities, and especially in cities, the necessity to, just meet basic needs, nobody gives a fuck, right? Your senator probably doesn't give a fuck. He is out there voting for $165 billion to Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
When, a lot of
Politics are absurd, dude. They
farmers.
don't fucking care. They don't actually care about people at
Exactly,
all.
right? Yeah. Rob, I want you to see, like, once this episode is over, I want you to go and just Google the amount of farmers, right, that kill themselves over money issues, man. It should not happen. It's the saddest shit ever. Like, people talk about veterans all the time, right? Like veterans, are killing themselves, and they created a proper system and chain, right, to take care of them, right? My thing is, what about food, man? Like, come on. Like, I don't care what Sam Altman says, like he needs $6 trillion to do some fucking bullshit, right? Give the same
Yeah.
$6 trillion to farmers and see what happens. Like, I am all, like team farmers throughout the day. And like, and also people, I have seen recently that, people have started to hate farmers because they're like, these farmers are putting chemicals. I'm like, okay, go talk to your local senator and say, you know what, subsidize organic farming, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, they're doing whatever they can to fucking pay their bills.
Yeah.
And if they're subsidizing things
hmm
that aren't natural, I mean,
Yep.
that's the government they're in.
Yeah.
Whether it's here, India, fucking
hmm
Africa, Europe,
Yeah.
wherever,
It doesn't
right?
matter. Yep.
Let me ask you this. So, someone that's living we'll say a McDonald's oriented American
Hmm.
life.
Okay.
You're
Hmm.
unhealthy American.
Yep.
What are some tips and tricks that you can give us to get into the sustainable
Hmm.
living side of things?
Okay.
We'll say, give me the top three things to consider.
Okay. I'll give you just one thing. I don't care about two, three.
All
So
right, I'll take it.
I, I would say, I would say, grow 1% of what you eat. I'm not talking about grains, right? I'm never talking about grains because grains you cannot grow in your house. I understand that. I'm not a fool. But I say, whatever you eat, right? Okay, you open a burger of McDonald's, it has lettuce in it, right? You calculate how much lettuce you eat in a year. You just grow 1% of it. I don't care. Just 1%, dude. Because you see, once people start appreciating how hard is it to grow food, they really start to monitor what they eat. That's what I've seen. And that's the whole trick. You know, people really, I don't know why, but the society has become a lamb in a freaking group of lambs. Like everybody wants to walk in the same direction. And whenever somebody talks about homesteading or being self-sufficient, they look at it almost as if the person who is talking is a gypsy or a hip person, right? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you are the biggest fucking fool to exist ever, right? Just imagine 2 generations ago, people were growing everything, man. Like, you know. In World War II, right? The only reason Russia did not lose much is because 80% of their food came from civilians, not farmers. Everybody started to grow food because they understood, the impact of food. It's that simple. It's not like rocket science. So I would say
Yeah.
just grow. I don't care. Coriander, I don't care. Grow something, dude. Because once you understand how holistic or how positive it is to grow food, you will immediately start to respect food, you know. And I get mad when I see, sorry, when I see old Gordon Ramsay shows or any restaurant shows, and people waste food like it's their father's food, like his father grew and he's just wasting it, right? I feel
Yeah.
like the reason that they're doing it is because they do not know how hard it should grow. And once people realize how damn hard is it to grow food, trust me, they will start to respect everything.
No,
So yeah, I
dude,
would
I
say grow
agree,
food,
and
man.
I couldn't agree more with you. And to kind of go hand in hand with that,
Yep.
and I listen to podcasts a lot, so
Hmm.
um, talk to me a little bit about and I feel like I know you're a food guy, but I feel like
Hmm.
you're also into the farming side of things.
Hmm.
What about like home remedies over medication? And I don't know what
Hmm.
India's like, and I'm not going to pretend like I know. But here in
Hmm.
America,
Yeah.
we don't even talk about, like, it's your grandma, your great grandma was telling you, oh, if you just did a little bit of this and put this in
Hmm.
some hot water, you'll feel
Yeah.
better. And like, nah, I'll take an Advil, right? It's like
Yeah.
we're so brainwashed into thinking
Hmm.
that these synthetic and biochemicals and all this and medications that the
Hmm.
pharmaceutical companies are putting out are the way to go, right? But
Hmm.
for me, and just being an educated person and doing a lot of
Hmm.
research, the home remedies have been wiped off of the fucking face of the planet because they don't make any money. They don't make the
Yep.
pharmaceutical companies money. They don't make the government money,
Hmm.
here in America, especially.
Yeah.
So you don't hear about those, and we just talked about it, right? When you
Hmm.
talk about the home remedies, they think you're crazy or a
Yes. Yes.
hermit
Exactly.
or
Hmm.
a hippie, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
how do you feel about from the growing side of things, like
Hmm.
home remedies over the medicated side? Because I feel like this kind of
Hmm.
goes hand in hand together, right?
Yeah. So it's like, one thing that Western medicine has proven itself over and over again is Western medicine is a quick fix, right? You have a headache, take this thing, it will go away. Okay, what about if the headache is coming every day? Okay, go take a scan. We need to operate on you right now. And that's how I saw a sad thing that even right now many hospitals issue like targets to doctors, like you need to reach this much dollars quota every month. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right?
I
Could you
agree, man.
imagine, Rob? Could you imagine, like, if cops had to meet encounter or like killing people quota, like you have to kill like 1,000 people a year, right?
Be a lot of dead fucking people.
And could you imagine, the deadline, as the deadline comes in, the city would be like a purge, right? It would be fucking crazy.
Which maybe
Now,
I sound crazy. I do
mhm,
think I do think some cities might need a little bit of a purge, and that's me sounding like an asshole. But go ahead. Like San Fran
yeah,
probably could use it.
yeah, man. So just imagine, Rob, you studied medicine, right? You were you were taught to fix people, but then you come into the system, and system says, you know what? You have to bill at least $2 million every month. How the fuck are you going to bill $2 million, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless you prescribe like freaking open heart surgeries to everybody, it's pretty hard, man. And of course, the system is broken because that's the way it was intended to work, right? And
Look,
all
man,
the
I
sub.
know because I work
Mhm.
here. I work for an insurance broker,
Oh,
and in the Medicare system. So I
yep.
deal with a lot of people who are
Hmm.
65 plus,
Hmm.
and here in America, man, there's a large disparity.
Yep.
We should be caring a lot more for our older people, and we
Why?
don't.
Why?
And
No,
I
Rob,
can't
because
tell you how
you
many
see,
times I've seen
mhm,
fucked up shit.
yeah, I will tell you why. I have the absolute exact reason why that's the problem. Because in an extreme capitalist society, you see everything as a supply, right? So young workforce is a supply, right? What do elder people do? Nothing. This is the assumption, and that's why, dude, in over in India, right? I explain to people that America has retirement villages, and they do not understand the concept of it. I'm telling you that. In India, right, Rob, even if you're American, if you settle in India, right, and you say, they'll ask you, what do your parents do or where do they live? And you say, you know what, they live somewhere else. And they think, okay, you are a bad son because they took care of you for 20 or 20 plus years of your life, right? And in their last 20 years, what did you do? You dumped them because it's just more convenient that way. And
Yeah.
that's the reason you have a fucked up system because, see, you know, even if you look into your tribal systems, right, an elder is a very important, I would say, goalpost of a society, right? Because
Yeah.
they have knowledge and they have knowledge that is not like gainable through studying something. I can tell you that. So
Yeah.
they have their own quick fixes, they have their own knowledge, and they have their own way of life that they would teach younger people. Now, when you throw your kid out at 16 or 18 and you say go fuck yourself, like figure life by yourself, that's a good thing, right? Because it teaches responsibility. But have you considered
Yeah.
for a second that an 18-year-old is has what a lot of people call as like dick mentality, right? Like, everything from one point of perspective, and like there is no tomorrow.
Oh, I
Right?
agree.
Yeah. So that leads to, like quick fixes, and quick fix is a very dangerous thing, right? If your tire has like one puncture, you could probably fix it. If it had 10, you'd change the tire, right?
Dude, I couldn't agree more with you, and I feel like I've been doing this for almost 9 years,
Hmm.
and we screw our old people, man, and there honestly, it's just there's no respect,
Hmm.
and I was always brought up to have respect for my elders, so
Hmm.
it's a little different for me. I respect just about everybody.
Hmm.
I hold doors for people. I still do all the manner things that you should do as a fucking human that people
Hmm.
just don't. It's a lost art, I guess. People don't fucking do that shit anymore.
Yep.
But I do think hopefully someday,
Hmm.
maybe somewhere, there is better programs for seniors, and I think what you talk about a lot with your
Hmm.
sustainable living, healthier living, things like that. There's a lot of older people that do garden. Like I talk to many people who garden. Like that's like their
Hmm.
hobby. They really love
Yep.
it. There's got to be something that we can do
Mm.
to kind of partner that up. I mean, it's a shame that you see a lot of this because they're over medicated, dude. I mean,
Yes.
they're you got high blood pressure, take these high blood pressure meds. Oh, you still have high blood pressure, take this
Hmm.
second high blood pressure meds. And then I'm
Yeah.
seeing shit now that say if you're on high blood pressure meds, it causes fucking dementia and it causes
Surprise,
Alzheimer's
right?
disease. And it's like, dude, the one thing, and I've talked about this many times, I don't want to lose my mind. Take an
Hmm.
arm, take a leg, do whatever you need to do. I don't want to
Hmm.
lose my mind because what are you as a human if you
Then
don't have
Rob,
your
you got to keep
memories?
eating your pills, man. You cannot miss your pills.
Dude, I look, you know what? Me and you need to stay in touch to fucking continuously talk about how I need to eat my
Sure, man.
veggies. But
Yeah.
let's end on this topic
Uh,
because I know it's a baby for you. Um,
hmm.
how did Taruvana come about,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
what's it like being connected to something that
Hmm.
really supports your values as a person?
Hmm. Yeah. So, I initially just like this, right? One-on-one talks to people, and I used to help them figure out a way to be more humble because I feel like people are being too cocky, and I don't like it because I feel like when you let your ego take over, like you do a lot of things that you don't want to do, and you'd probably regret. And I see people taking a lot of things for granted, especially in India, and I'm like, fuck you, because like your elders, like your forefathers, did not struggle and freaking die in winter and summer and rain and water, right? For you to be a
Yeah,
freaking domesticated animal, you're not supposed to be a domesticated animal, because guess what, today horses need freaking jackets to survive winter. Who the fuck knew that? These are the same freaking horses that we had wars over centuries, dude, right? They would charge in a
yeah,
freaking battlefield, man. Today you are treating them like like they are some object that you had to put them in a heated, in what is it called as, yeah, in controlled environment freaking rooms. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You have taken that is something that is very natural, right? It's supposed to be like that, and you're just like fucked it up, and you're doing the same thing to your children and to yourself, right? You are pushing. I see, and I'm very afraid that when pediatricians suggest, like, what, feed your children calcium, I'm like, fuck you. You are destroying the future generations. You are making them weak. You're making them weak by feeding them synthetic nutrition. You don't know where
yeah.
where did that calcium come from. Nobody asks a question. They look at like a dog shaped calcium pill, and they feed it to their children. I'm like, did you take a second to research where the fuck did that calcium come from? Did it come from dead animal, or was it like, where did it come from? Because it cannot magically appear as a pill, right? So
Yeah,
I started helping people, and then I understood, okay, the the problem with people is they are very, what can I say? They have a lot of pride, not the LGBTQ pride, but just pride in themselves. Like, they would
yeah,
not ask for a bottle of water even if they were dying of thirst. So I saw
true.
that, like especially Indians have a very high pride. Like, we don't like to take any help, right? I don't know why the fuck we are like that, but we're like that. So I saw that, okay, now what do I need to do for that, right? Like, there has to be some solution. I cannot just let it be like, okay, this person is prideful, so I'm just going to leave that person be. I'm like, no, let's change the narrative, right? Let's change the story. So what I did was, I did my own research, and with my team, we have created, growing kits, right? Kit. So it's like a combo of everything that you need to grow food. And I always go back to one thing, Rob, is right now, because you're beginning, to be understanding food, right? Don't try to grow
Yeah,
your food. You will fail. Okay. Try to grow a source of nutrition. That's all I'm asking for. And you don't need much to grow nutrition, because you would need pounds and pounds of vegetables, as a food source, but you would need like probably like let's say what very small amount of food to be dependable as a nutrition source, right? For calcium, phosphorus, iron, magnesium, everything that goes into your body. So I would
Yeah.
say, go look into your pills. Look what it has. Go to Google. I'm not asking pay me. I don't give a shit. You go to Google, you search which plant has calcium, which plant has magnesium, okay, which plant has iron, and you start growing those plants as a nutrition source. That's all I'm asking for, man. I'm not asking you to be a miracle homesteader. I don't I know I understand that people live in cities, they do not have space, right? That's why there are literally hundreds of ways of growing food. There is not one. There is vertical farming, there is aquaponic, like there is so many options. I have seen city people, and I hate this. They say I hate soil. Rob, could you imagine a world where people hate soil? Like,
That's insane, man.
yeah. So then I say, okay, you know what? I don't want to hate you because you're a human and you deserve to have your opinion. So do aquaponic farming, right? Like where there is no soil, you're dependent on water. And there are literally hundreds of ways of farming. I'm not saying, do one or two. I don't care. So what we usually do is we support our customers or anybody who buys our kit until their first harvest. So it's not like an year or a month or whatever. The first time you harvest any food, that is when my work in your life ends. Like now it's up to you what to do next, right? And my kit in India, it costs around 1500 rupees. And let me quickly like do the conversion for you Americans. I don't know why Americans love conversions, right? Yeah. So my kit costs you around $18, 14 cents in India, right?
Okay.
And it helps you grow five different vegetables like carrot, radish, cucumber, spinach, like simple things that are very easy to grow. But also, I see people smile and I see like a shine, right, when people grow something for the first time. And they send me photos like, oh my god, I just grew this, I cannot believe,
Like
and
a
they're just
parent, you know?
ecstatic. Exactly. And they're just ecstatic, that they were able to do something that they felt was very hard. So I urge people, like maybe one day you will not have a control over your own food because you already lost it, but it's prime time that we start controlling what we eat and how we treat nature. Because I know, Rob, I usually like avoid facts about devastation of environment or soil, because that makes people just anxiety, like more anxiety, and it fills them with more anger, and I don't want to do that, right? I'm like, okay, go look it up yourself, right? I just lit a small uh, spark of fire in you. Right now it's up to you what you want to do with it. If you want to put up a
Yeah.
huge bonfire, it's up to you. Now you do your own research, because I have seen a lot of people disappearing talking about this shit, and I don't want to be one of them.
Well,
Yeah.
look, I need to get better with that myself, but I
Mm.
applaud and appreciate the activism that you're doing because I do think that it's
Rob,
important.
don't call it activism.
Um,
People will come after me. Say a multinational corporation. We are an evil
you're
business.
we love your evil business of helping people eat
Yeah.
healthier without chemicals.
Yeah.
Listen, this was awesome.
Mhm.
Plug yourself, man. Tell us where we can find all of your content, your
Mm.
website, podcast, all that stuff that you do.
Yeah, I do a lot of shit, so I don't know whether I want to pull everybody. I would say, like,
Say it all, man. Say it all. Plug
yeah.
yourself.
So I would say search Taruvana. You would get the website. It's very SEO friendly website, so we are on top of it. And also, it's a very rare name, so a lot of people are not competing yet. Um, so yeah, just go in
Yet.
there. Yeah, yet. And I don't do a lot of activism, guys. As Rob claimed, I am a businessman and I want to earn more money. But use Google
He's an
until
evil
it's not
corporation,
censored.
everybody. He's an evil
Yes,
corporation.
Yes,
If you're
I'm the
not
little
watching
finger.
this, he's wearing a shirt with the giant skull and crossbones on it. Okay, he's
Yes,
not, but he
exactly.
is.
Yeah. So yeah, just go. You know, I would love if people just like got me somewhere on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? And they just said, what, I grew my first carrot and I'm very happy for them. That's all I care about, man, because I want to turn this world into an addiction of like self sustenance, I would say. Yeah, so that's my plug. Just search Taruvana, you'd find me.
Awesome, man. Well, look, you can find my podcast everywhere. It's Drink O'Clock Pod on socials for the most part. Drink O'Clock Podcast. If you Google it, you'll find me on everywhere you can find podcasts. This will be up probably next week. Also, I'm a member of the Deluxe Edition Network, which is an awesome network of podcasters. The podcasts in the month are Bacon is My Podcast and my personal good friend, Matt over at Beard Laws, who throws together some really, really great content. So, look, man, it was a pleasure having you on, and I hope you have a great night, and you definitely gave me some good things to consider.
Thank you so much for having me. Um, yeah, that's all I would say. Thank you for the opportunity. I like to meet new people and I just like to talk because I'm also a podcaster. Um, yeah, so it was great actually. I did not know it was an hour long. Just now I looked up the time.
We went for a while, man, and
Yep.
look, I appreciate you, and keep fighting the fight, Ganesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Drink O'Clock Podcast, where fascinating people from all over the world share their stories over a drink. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform to catch up on past episodes and stay up to date on new releases. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions for future guests, the team at Drink O'Clock would love to hear from you. You can find them on most social media at Drink O'Clock Pod. Until next time, stay classy and remember, people, it's always happy hour somewhere. Cheers!